The Life of Yugi Muto, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yugi Muto, also romanized as Yugi Muto, is the main protagonist of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, along with Yami Yugi. It was stated once that Yugi is the modern-day version of Pharaoh Atem. Together with the spirit of Pharaoh Atem, he holds the title King of Games, King of Duelists in the Japanese version. Yugi possessed the 3,000-year-old mystical Millennium Puzzle, which allowed his body to bear the host of the spirit of the puzzle, Yami Yugi. Yugi was initially unaware of his existence and control of Yugi's body, and would involuntarily shift to Yami Yugi at trying times in the English dub. He lives with his paternal grandfather, Solomon Muto, and his mother. Yugi is part of a close-knit group of friends, Joey Wheeler, Tristan Taylor, Gardner, and Bakura. Yugi's friends often cheer him on from the sidelines, and Joey has dueled at his side. Yugi has been friends with Taya since childhood and has a romantic crush on her. Taya has been shown to have romantic feelings for both Yugi and Yami Yugi. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Yugi Muto. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Background: Yugi lived in his family's game shop, Kame Game, with his mother and grandfather. His grandfather taught him a lot about the game, Duel Monsters. Joey and Tristan used to bully Yugi. Joey even went as far as taking a piece of Yugi's Millennium Puzzle and throwing it into a canal. However, Yugi stood up for Joey and Tristan when they were attacked by Ushio, claiming that they were his friends, whereas Ushio claimed he was protecting Yugi in order to earn money. Joey and Tristan came to be Yugi's friends after the incident, and Joey recovered the piece of the puzzle. After solving the Millennium Puzzle, Yugi unknowingly became host to Yami Yugi, the spirit of Pharaoh Atem. He shared his body with Yami, who occasionally takes control, typically to help Yugi and his friends. Yugi and Joey once visited Burger Palooza, only to find Taya working there. She feared that if they told anyone, she would get expelled as it's against school rules to have a part-time job. She splattered their burgers in ketchup, warning them not to tell. They told her that they didn't even know she worked there and they wouldn't say a word. Yugi later found Taya in a warehouse, being filmed by a pervert who threatened to reveal she was working at Burger Palooza. In the dub, because of localization, the guy was a mugger who tricked her by writing a note pretending Yugi and Joey had given her a dance studio. Yugi tackled the man but got thrown against a wall. Taya was also knocked unconscious after trying to attack him. Yugi then transformed into Yami Yugi, who defeated the man in a card draw game and mind-crushed him. Yugi came to believe that he had saved Taya himself, although he didn't remember how he did it. Duelist Kingdom. Yugi defeated Joey in Duel Monsters at school and decided to invite Joey, Taya, and Tristan to see Grandpa's rare card, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, after school. Seto Kaiba, who overheard, kidnapped Grandpa and forced him into a duel for his Blue Eyes, as he refused to trade or sell it. Yugi and his friends caught up after Solomon had already been defeated and witnessed Kaiba tear up the Blue Eyes White Dragon in front of them. Outraged, Yugi challenged Kaiba to a duel, and Solomon gave Yugi his deck. Yugi dueled Kaiba as Yami Yugi and discovered Kaiba had the other 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in his deck, but defeated him using Exodia the Forbidden One, taking Kaiba's title as the Duel Monsters World Champion. Since Joey had been having troubles with winning in Duel Monsters, Yugi asked his grandfather to help train Joey. Maximilian Pegasus heard of Yugi's victory over Kaiba and sent him a videotape inviting him to participate in his Duelist Kingdom tournament. Pegasus appeared on the TV and dueled Yugi on the spot while freezing everyone else in the room. Pegasus placed a time limit on the duel and won because time ran out seconds before Yugi could claim victory. As a penalty for Yugi's defeat, Pegasus stole Grandpa's soul. Yugi entered the tournament in order to rescue Grandpa. At the pier, before boarding the ship to the tournament, he gave Joey one of his 2 star chips, allowing Joey to participate and help him. On the ship, Yugi met Weevil Underwood, who acted friendly towards him and told Yugi that he knew of secret new rules to be introduced in the tournament. Shortly after Weevil left, Yugi gave Joey the Time Wizard card, telling him how it could be helpful in a tight spot. Yugi met Weevil again later and showed him his Exodia cards, which Weevil tossed overboard to hinder Yugi's deck. Joey jumped into the water to recover them, but after getting 2 of them, was hit by the current, and Yugi dove in to save him. Both of them were then rescued by the stowaways, Taya and Tristan, who threw them a rope ladder. Once the tournament started, Yugi tracked down Weevil to get revenge, but Weevil fled, leading him into a forest. Yugi suspected this was to do with the new rules Weevil mentioned. Weevil led them to a meadow where he accepted Yugi's challenge, as his monsters got field power bonuses there. Yugi switched to Yami Yugi, who bet both his deck and star chip, earning him Weevil's 2 star chips after he won. Yugi cheered for Joey in his duel against Mai. As Yami Yugi, he offered Joey abstract clues to help him win. Joey defeated Mai using the Time Wizard card Yugi gave him. While searching for food, Yugi and his friends found fish Mako Tsunami had prepared. Unbeknownst to them, Mako had set it as bait to lure opponents to where his monsters greatly benefit from the field. Mako appeared, angered over them stealing his food. After Yugi introduced himself, Mako was happy to meet the duelist who defeated Kaiba and shared food with him and his friends. Yugi got up to leave, but Mako stopped him by throwing a harpoon in front of him and demanded a duel. Yugi switched to Yami and defeated Mako, winning 2 more star chips. Yugi and his friends saw a contestant being forced to leave the island as he was out of star chips. The boy claimed that they had been stolen along with his deck. He described the thief and where he met him. Yugi promised to get his star chips back before the boat left the island. At the scene of the crime, they met the thief, whose face was disguised. He dueled Yugi, with 5 stolen star chips on the line, and Yami Yugi soon realized that the thief was Kaiba's brother, Mokuba. Mokuba explained how Yugi's humiliation of Kaiba resulted in his departure, giving Pegasus an opportunity to take over Kaiba Corp. Mokuba sought revenge on Yugi for this. Unable to win the duel, he made a grab for Yugi's star chips, but Yami discouraged Mokuba and promised to help him and Kaiba. The group made their way back to the bay, but the boat had already left. Mokuba showed Kemo that Yugi won back the star chips, but Kemo slapped them into the water, including some of Yugi's. Kemo grabbed Mokuba to take him back to Pegasus, but Yugi challenged Kemo to a duel for Mokuba's freedom. Since Kemo wasn't a duelist, he told Yugi to come back in an hour, 4 hours in the dub, and he would have an opponent arranged for him. Yugi returned to the spot and faced Ghost Kaiba, who pretended to be the actual Seto Kaiba and used his deck. With the help of the real Kaiba, who weakened Ghost Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragons via a virus, Yami Yugi won. Yugi retrieved Kaiba's deck, but Kemo had already disappeared with Mokuba. Yugi wasn't allowed to help Joey in his duel with Rex Raptor. As the duel started, Yugi went to find Tristan, who left in a huff with Joey for accepting those conditions. Tristan reminded Yugi that he should still be at the duel to offer Joey his friendship, so the 2 of them returned to watch. That night, Mai shared her food with Yugi and his friends, although she promised that they would be enemies again tomorrow. Bakura Ryou appeared at their campsite shortly after Mai left for a walk. While the group talked about cards they own and identify with, Yugi encouraged Taya to pick one for herself and picked the Dark Magician as his own. Cyber Commander and Magician of Faith in his deck, and he can show them how his card Change of Heart works. Bakura changed to Yami Bakura, who trapped the group's souls in the cards they selected. He proceeded to take Yugi's Millennium Puzzle, but Yami Yugi emerged and faced Yami Bakura in a shadow game, staking the Millennium Puzzle in order to return his friends. Yugi's friends appeared in place of the monsters they selected as Yami Yugi summoned them. When Yugi was summoned when the Dark Magician played, the 2 Yugis met. In the Japanese version, Yugi was aware of Yami's existence, and the 2 of them agreed now is not the time to keep secrets. In the dub, Yugi was unaware of Yami's existence until that time, though he said he often heard a powerful voice coming from the Millennium Puzzle when he dueled. Yugi told his friends of Yami's existence, that he's the spirit of the Millennium Puzzle, and apologized for not telling them before. Yami managed to win the duel with the help of Bakura betraying Yami Bakura, returning everyone to normal, although Taya, Tristan, and Joey believed the duel to have been a dream. Yugi didn't take time to explain as they heard Mai scream at that point. The group found the Eliminator, Panic, who had just beaten Mai and taken all 8 of her star chips. Yugi accused Panic of being a coward and dueled him as Yami Yugi, winning back Mai's star chips. He offered them to Mai, who reluctantly took them back, remarking that she owed him one. Later that night, Kaiba arrived on the island and Yugi returned his deck. The next day, Mai left a letter explaining she had left and owes Yugi for winning back her star chips. Joey later got separated from his friends, who searched a cave after finding his wallet outside. After running from many traps, they found Joey in a duel with Bonds. Joey won, but Bandit Keith's gang trapped Yugi and his friends in the cave by sealing the entrance with a boulder. Using Bakura's Millennium Ring as a guide, the friends found the Paradox brothers guarding an exit. Yugi and Joey faced them in a tag duel to gain passage. After winning, Yugi and Joey each had enough star chips to enter the finals, and Yami Yugi passed the brothers' riddles test in order to exit. At the stairs to Pegasus's castle, Taya pondered on Yugi's differing personalities and wondered if there could be 2 Yugis. Yugi admitted to feeling as though there is someone else living inside him, but hoped he wasn't going crazy. At the top of the stairs, Kaiba blocked the way and talked Yugi into a duel. Yami took control and faced Kaiba using his duelist technology. As Yami was about to win, Kaiba stood up on the edge of the castle, such that the shock waves from Yugi's attack may cause him to fall to his death. In the English anime, Yugi spoke to Yami telling him not to do it. Yami contemplated, but in the end decided to attack. Taya ran to Yugi, insisting that this isn't like him, and calls for the ordinary Yugi to come out. Yugi took control in time to cancel the move. He fell to his knees, shocked by what he had almost done. Kaiba took his turn and won the duel, claiming 5 of Yugi's star chips. Now fully aware of the other Yugi's existence, Yugi admitted it to his friends, telling them that he's afraid of him, and consequently afraid to duel. Kaiba called Yugi weak, but Taya protested, arguing that Yugi saved him and Kaiba is the real loser. After Kaiba left, Yugi continued to mope. Joey offered Yugi to take his star chip so that he may enter the finals, but Yugi ignored him. Frustrated, Joey grabbed Yugi by the shirt, asking him if he cared about his grandfather. Mai appeared and was briefed in on what just happened. She offered Yugi her excessive star chips as per her promise from earlier, but Yugi didn't even acknowledge Mai's appearance. Annoyed, Mai told him to grow up and hang on to the star chips. She accused him of being afraid to duel again and challenged him. Taya instead accepted the duel to win back Yugi's star chips. Yugi began to slowly snap out of his depression as he watched Taya duel. After Mai surrendered, Yugi approached her about the face-down card she didn't use. Mai denied that she lost for him. In the dub, she said that some cards just aren't worth playing. Inside the castle, the group were invited to watch Pegasus duel Kaiba. Seeing as Kaiba was dueling to save Mokuba, Yugi opted to support Kaiba. Kaiba was trapped in Pegasus's soul prison card after his defeat. Yugi then shouted down to Pegasus, asking who he is to mess with people and their families like this. The finalists, along with Taya, Tristan, and Bakura, were treated to a meal that evening, where the finalists got paired up. After the meal, Yugi gave Joey his Glory of the King's hand, as it's mandatory for each finalist to possess either it or Glory of the King's opposite hand. That night, Yugi was woken by his grandfather's voice calling him. He followed it and found a soul prison card with his grandfather's soul inside. Solomon warned him about Pegasus and is accompanied by the cards containing Seto and Mokuba Kaiba's souls. Yugi woke up afterwards wondering if it was a dream. Yugi faced Mai in the first duel of the finals. Yami Yugi gives little effort to the duel as he was worried about facing Pegasus. In the dub, Yugi refused to let Yami duel, fearing how he may harm their opponent. This resulted in Yugi playing poorly. Encouraging words from Mai returned the Yugis to the top of their game and allowed them to turn the duel around and emerge with a win. Yugi cheered for Joey in his duel against Bandit Keith. Yugi then faced Joey in the final round. Joey used all he learned from Yugi, but was still defeated by Yami Yugi. Afterwards, Joey offered to give Glory of the King's hand back to Yugi so that he may claim the prize money. However, Yugi declined, as he had entered the tournament with the intent of saving his grandfather and now the Kaiba brothers. The money wasn't important to him, but Joey needed it for his sister's eye operation. Yugi advanced to duel Pegasus. At the start of the duel, Yugi requested that the Kaiba brothers' soul be released as well as his grandfather's, if he wins. Pegasus accepted that he plans on taking Yugi's soul if he wins. Pegasus uses his Millennium Eye to read Yami Yugi's mind during the duel, but Yugi had an idea about countering Pegasus' power by the risky strategy of having him and Yami switch minds each time they played a face-down card, thus preventing Pegasus from reading their strategy while running the risk that one of them would attempt something that would hinder the other's plans. After the Yugis destroyed Pegasus' Toon World card, Pegasus transported them all into the Shadow Realm. In the Shadow Realm, Yugi lost his life energy while doing the Mind Shuffle strategy, lacking the spiritual strength to play on that level, and Pegasus continued successfully reading Yami's mind until Joey, Taya, and Tristan blocked his Millennium Eye. Yami defeated Pegasus, returning them both back from the Shadow Realm. Pegasus disappeared after his duel with Yugi. Determined to ensure the captive souls are returned, Yugi and his friends searched for Pegasus. Yugi and company headed to Pegasus' tower, where they found a diary entry addressed to new King of Duelists, who defeats him, explaining why he created duel monsters. Yugi then spotted the 3 soul prison cards, which are now blank, meaning the souls are no longer imprisoned. As he left the tower, Yugi bumped into Shadi, who used his Millennium Key to enter Yugi's mind. To Shadi's surprise, he found 2 soul rooms, one for Yugi and one for Yami. Shadi wound up in a shadow game with Yami, but was rescued by Yugi. Yugi informs Shadi that he doesn't believe his other self intends to harm him and asks Yami to release Shadi from the game. A door opened, leading them to a room lined with stone tablets of duel monsters. Yugi learned from Shadi that millennia ago, Egyptian kings played shadow games with real monsters and magic. After the games became a war that threatened to destroy the world, one brave pharaoh sealed the magic away. The duo were confronted by the dark magician. Shadi prepared to counter by summoning the Blue Eyes White Dragon. However, Yugi insisted that the dark magician would never harm him and asked the magician to let them pass. To Shadi's astonishment, the magician complied. Seeing Yugi's control over the dark magician, Shadi believed he may be the chosen one. Shadi returned himself and Yugi to outside Yugi's soul. Before disappearing, he told Yugi his name and claimed to have not told it to anyone before. After the group found Mokuba was back to normal, Croquette handed Yugi the other prizes on behalf of Pegasus, who had been taken to the hospital. Yugi received the card The Ties of Friendship, was crowned the King of Games, and also received the $3 million check which he gave to Joey for Serenity's eye operation. Kaiba thanked Yugi for saving Mokuba and insisted that they have a fair duel someday to determine who is the better duelist. Yami Yugi congratulated Yugi on saving everyone. In the dub, Yugi pointed out that he doesn't even know Yami's name. Yami replied that he had been called many things such as Pharaoh, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Yami. Yugi referred to him as Yami and said that he's glad to call him his friend, while Yami was proud to be one. Yugi and his friends got a lift back to Domino City from Kaiba. Rebecca. As Yugi brought his grandfather home from the hospital, the group was confronted by Rebecca Hawkins. She accused Solomon of stealing her grandfather's Blue Eyes White Dragon and challenged him to a duel. At Kaibaland, Yugi faced Rebecca in the duel as his grandfather was unfit to play. The duel turned out to be an exact repeat of the duel their grandfathers played long ago over a drink of water. Like how Solomon surrendered back then as Arthur needed the water more, Yugi surrendered to teach Rebecca about the heart of the cards. Just then, Arthur arrived, showed that Yugi could have won, and explained why he surrendered. After Rebecca apologized, Yugi gave her the card The Ties of Friendship. Legendary Heroes. Mokuba arrived at Kame Game and informed Yugi and his friends that Kaiba's mind had been trapped in the virtual world by the Big Five while testing out a virtual reality machine that he created. Upon agreeing to help, Yugi, Joey, Taya, Tristan, and Mokuba snuck into Kaiba's laboratory at the adventure game. Yugi, Joey, and Mokuba got into pods to transport their minds to the virtual world, while Taya and Tristan kept guard. Yugi, Joey, and Mokuba appeared in a graveyard, where they were confronted by Armored Zombie, Clown Zombie, and Dragon Zombie. They summoned monsters to battle them, but the zombies kept reviving stronger than before. However, Joey continued to attack them until Yugi reminded him of his duel with Bonds. So, Joey played Shield and Sword, dropping their defense to 0, and Yugi finished off the zombies with Dark Magician. Upon beating the zombies, they were each given a card displaying how much currency they have. The trio spotted the fairy Ryou, who guided them to a town. Here, they heard that a prisoner, who may be Kaiba, had been taken to the Cave of Death. They were unable to travel there due to the sandstorm, and a townsman informed them that they would need a Niwatori in order to cross that desert. Upon searching the town, they found a battle competition with Niwatori as a prize. Yugi and Mokuba watched Joey duel Madame Butterfly in a virtual world coliseum. Once Joey found out that Madame Butterfly was Mai Valentine, Yugi and Mokuba ran over to them and explained what happened to Kaiba. Offering to help, Mai got her Harpy Lady to snatch the Niwatori card from the Coliseum owner, and the four of them ran for the desert. At the edge of the desert, Mai played the Niwatori card, producing 4 large birds for them to ride on. Once they crossed the desert, they reached the temple at the Cave of Death. Inside, they found themselves in a maze and were chased by Labyrinth Tank. Yugi used magical hats to hide them and transport them to another part of the maze where they met Ryou and Adena. Ryou guided the group to the exit, but it was guarded by Gate Guardian. Yugi and Joey together summoned Black Skull Dragon and equipped it with dragon nails, making it strong enough to defeat Gate Guardian. Outside the maze, a rescue party arrived and took Yugi and his friends to the palace as a reward for saving Adena. At the palace, Yugi and his friends learned that Adena was the queen of the land. In the dub, she was a princess. Adena informed them of Mythic Dragon Ritual, where they must offer sacrifices to the Mythic Dragon. They learned that Adena is to be this kingdom's sacrifice, and Kaiba is to be another kingdom's. Adena tells them of a legendary flying machine which can access the castle where Kaiba is, and how she believed that Yugi and his friends are prophesized heroes who will destroy the Mythic Dragon. Yugi, Joey, Mai, and Mokuba agreed to help and were given hero costumes to wear. On one of the battlements, they were attacked by monsters who were after the sacrifice. Yugi, Joey, and Mai unsuccessfully tried fighting them off. However, Mokuba, who had previously swapped clothes with Adena, was kidnapped instead. While trying to find a way to save Mokuba, Yugi noticed the recent storm had revealed the outlines of the flying machine on the floor below them. Yugi asked Tadena how long ago the legend involving the flying machine took place. With the unlikelihood of the machine still working and not enough time to dig it up, Yugi hinted to Joey that they needed to restore it to the condition it was 1,000 years ago, prompting Joey to use Time Wizard to take the machine back 1,000 years. Yugi, Joey, and Mai flew the airship up to the castle. On the way, they were attacked by monsters, which they countered by summoning their own monsters. Yugi was attacked while his dark magician was too far away to save him. However, Ryou blocked the attack, sacrificing itself. Yugi then played Swords of Revealing Light to block attacks. Angry over Ryou's death, Yugi switched to Yami Yugi, who led the group to the castle. As Yami, he managed to regroup with the Kaiba brothers and defeat the Big Five's mythic dragon in the final stage by summoning Dragon Master Knight. Shortly after, Adina thanked them and revived Mai, Joey, Mokuba, and Ryou. The group returned to the real world. Dungeon Dice Monsters. Grandpa feared for his business, the Kame game, when the new game store, the Black Clown, opened in Domino City. He ordered Yugi to stay away from the new shop. However, Yugi and Taya passed it on the way to school later. Yugi received a flyer for a new game, Dungeon Dice Monsters, but Taya dragged him away after he blushed at the lady handing out the flyer. At school, they met the new student Duke Devlin, the owner of the Black Clown. Joey was jealous of Duke's popularity and challenged him to a game of duel monsters. Yugi objected to the condition that Joey and Duke both used decks from packs they opened on the spot. Joey lost the televised duel and, in keeping his end of the bargain, had to do whatever Duke said. Yugi became disgusted after Duke forced Joey to wear a dog suit and behave like a dog, so he switched to Yami, who challenged Duke to a duel. Duke accepted if they played Dungeon Dice Monsters instead of Duel Monsters, and should Yugi lose, he must relinquish his title of King of Games and give up playing Duel Monsters. Unfamiliar with the rules, Yami got off to a rough start. His chances didn't improve as Duke revealed that he designed Dungeon Dice Monsters with Pegasus's aid. Duke blamed Yugi for Pegasus's disappearance after Duelist Kingdom. Yami used his innate gaming skills to turn the tables on Duke. Yami succeeded in calling Dark Magician, which Pegasus had added to the game, and used it to defeat Duke. After the game, Duke, Yugi, and Yugi's friends went to Duke's office. Duke lamented that his dream had been crushed as nobody would want to play Dungeon Dice Monsters now. However, Yugi assured him that it was a great game and his friends agreed. Duke apologized for how he had treated them, and they agreed to be friends. Battle City. Yugi replaced the brown rope around the Millennium Puzzle with a chain, which Yami Yugi complimented and offered him advice on impressing Taya, who was waiting for him. Embarrassed, Yugi asked what he was talking about. As Yugi left the room, his mother asked who he was talking to. Yugi replied that it was nobody and dashed off. Yugi met up with Taya and left for school with her. In the dub, they were going to a soccer game. Yugi told her that Yami was worried about his destiny and had no memory of his past. On the way to school, Yugi bumped into Bandit Keith, who was possessed by Marek Ishtar and disguised as a fortune teller. Falling for the disguise, Yugi reluctantly let him hold the Millennium Puzzle in order to read his future. Keith knocked over the table at Yugi and Taya and ran off with the puzzle. Yugi and Taya split up to find him. In his search, Yugi followed a series of arrows, although he knew it was a trap. He felt that he had no other choice. Yugi caught up with Keith, who had the puzzle bolted to a wall. According to ancient rules, Marek had to win the puzzle in a duel, so he challenged Yugi to a duel through Keith. Yugi was unable to switch to Yami during the duel and quickly realized that Bandit Keith was his opponent after seeing he used the machine deck. Yami Bakura sensed an evil presence and pinpointed it to the duel. Seeing Keith controlled, Yami Bakura used the Millennium Ring to break Marek's control. Keith struggled to resist being repossessed, but Marek took control long enough to have Keith smash the puzzle. Bakura swung down from a rope, knocking Keith unconscious. Bakura then collected a piece of the puzzle and sealed a fragment of his soul inside it before returning it to Yugi. Keith regained consciousness and continued to struggle with Marek's mind control, setting fire to the warehouse in his confusion. Unable to remove the piece of the puzzle connected to the wall, Yugi stayed in the burning building to reassemble it. After inserting the last piece, he collapsed and goes unconscious from the heat, but was rescued by Tristan and Joey and was taken to the hospital. Worrying about how the puzzle almost got stolen, Yugi took time to talk with Yami and discovered that Yami had no idea of who he once was, as he's lost all his memories. The duo suspected that their new enemy is in possession of a Millennium item. To try and help Yami regain his memories, Yugi asked Taya to spend time with Yami. He asked Taya out, but switched to Yami just before the date. Not expecting this, Yami started shouting into the puzzle at Yugi until he was noticed by Taya. On the date, Yami and Taya learned from Ishizu Ishtar that Yami was once an Egyptian pharaoh and that Yugi had to enter the upcoming Battle City tournament to stop their new enemy. While talking with Taya about duel monsters at school, Taya asked which card best suited Yugi, assuming he would pick Dark Magician. However, Yugi explained that while Dark Magician is powerful, Mahavilo better suits him, as it's not the strongest card, but it had hidden power. He would have liked to have picked Dark Magician, but thought it's better suited to the other Yugi. The day before the tournament, Yugi and Joey picked up their duel discs in order to compete, and the next morning, Yugi finished reconstructing his deck for the tournament. Yugi spotted Joey trying to get a rematch with the rare hunter Seeker, who had won his Red Eyes Black Dragon. Yugi notices his robes were the same as the ones Bandit Keith wore while he was possessed. Seeker refused to face Joey again, but challenges Yugi to a duel. Yugi accepts and switches to Yami, who won and took back Joey's Red Eyes Black Dragon. Merrick then used Seeker as his puppet to communicate with Yugi. He introduced himself, told Yugi how he's after the powers of the Pharaoh, and warned him that there are more deadly rare hunters. Yugi offered Joey back the Red Eyes, but Joey refused, saying that he'll wait until he's a true duelist before earning it back. Yugi was lured into a tent by a harlequin and confronted by the rare hunter Arcana. As Yami Yugi, he faced Arcana in a duel where the loser's feet got cut off by a buzzsaw. Oh my god! Jesus Christ. In the dub, they got sent to the Shadow Realm by energy discs. Yami won the duel, but Yugi then took over and saved Arcana from the buzzsaw. Energy disc in the dub. At the canal, while Yugi spoke with Yami about recent happenings, they were confronted by another rare hunter, Strings. Strings was under Merrick's complete control and dueled Yami Yugi using the Egyptian god card Slifer the Sky Dragon. Yami won the duel, earning Slifer the Sky Dragon, although through the anti-rule. Kaiba, who had appeared during the duel, challenged Yugi to a duel on the spot, but Merrick warned Yugi that he was going to take control of Joey. Yugi declined Kaiba's challenge as he had to find and save his friend. As Yami Yugi searched the city for his friends, with Kaiba's help, they defeated the rare hunters Umbra and Loomis twice, gaining enough locator cards to qualify for the finals, and also located Joey at Domino Pier. At the pier, Yugi was forced to duel Joey, who was possessed by Merrick. Each player had their ankles chained to an anchor, which would drag them underwater to drown after the timer reaches 0. The only way for either player to save themselves was to defeat their opponent, which would open a box, giving them a key. Yami made the first few of Yugi's moves, but Yugi insisted that he should fight this battle himself. Through talking to Joey and using Red Eyes Black Dragon to remind him of his promise to become a true duelist and even giving him the Millennium Puzzle, Yugi managed to get Joey's subconsciousness to ignore Merrick's commands. Yugi managed to fully snap Joey out of Merrick's control shortly before forcing himself to lose. With Joey back to normal, Yugi told Merrick that he was the true loser of this duel. Yugi let his life points fall to 0 and collapsed, releasing Joey's key. However, Joey managed to force the duel into a draw, releasing Yugi's key too. Using the chain, Joey swung to Yugi's side of the field and grabbed his key before the anchor dragged them both down. He unlocked Yugi, who floated to the surface and was brought ashore by Tristan. Serenity dove in with the other key to save Joey. Joey later apologized and returned the Millennium Puzzle. Yugi thanked Yami for trusting in him, and Yami said that Yugi has taught him the strength behind kindness and that one day Yugi will surpass him in every way. Afterwards, Mai gave Yugi and his friends a lift to the finals. Yugi, Joey, Mai, Taya, Tristan, Duke, and Serenity arrived at the Kaiba Corp Stadium for the finals. Yugi was suspicious of the finalist Merrick, who's under the guise Namu, and Bakura, who should be in the hospital. Shortly after, Odeon Ishtar, pretending to be Merrick, arrived. Everyone boarded the blimp where the finals took place. As Yugi prepared for the finals in his room, he added Slifer the Sky Dragon to his deck, thinking he was going to need it to face Merrick. He also suspected Bakura had come into contact with the Millennium Ring again. Yami Yugi faced Bakura in the first of the quarterfinals on the Stratos Dueling Arena. Yugi's suspicions were confirmed as they faced Yami Bakura. When Bakura was one turn away from winning the Destiny board, the two Yugis agreed that they had to use Slifer the Sky Dragon to defeat him. Yami Yugi summoned Slifer, but Merrick switched control of Bakura's body from Yami Bakura to Bakura, who was too weak to withstand the attack. However, Yami Bakura disagreed with Merrick's plan and took control of Bakura's body. He invited Yugi to attack him, refusing to let his host die. Yugi won the duel, knocking Bakura unconscious and leaving him in need of medical attention. During the intermission before the next duel, Yugi unsuccessfully tried to get Kaiba to make an emergency stop to take Bakura to a doctor. Yugi went back to his room and began examining his deck. He was interrupted by Shadi, who told him how the Egyptian god cards were created and why he must stop Merrick from getting his hands on them. Joey defeated Odeon, who was still pretending to be Merrick, and exposed him as a fake. Subsequently, Namu was exposed as the real Merrick, and Yami Merrick took control of his body. Merrick confronted Yugi, saying the battle for the Pharaoh's power had just begun. After losing to Kaiba, Ishizu Ishtar told Yugi of the Ishtar's family's history and gave him the Millennium Necklace, as he was going to need all 7 Millennium items to recover the Pharaoh's memories. That night, Yugi was woken by Taya, who reported Bakura had gone missing. They discovered he was dueling with Merrick and saw him lose shortly after they arrived. Battle City Finals. The Kaiba Corp blimp took the finalists to the Duel Tower for the Battle City Finals. Yugi switched to Yami Yugi for the Battle Royale to determine matchups, and wound up with Kaiba as his opponent. Yugi tried to stop Joey from dueling Merrick. However, Yami reminded him that Joey accepted the duel knowing it would be a shadow game and nobody can stop such a game. Yugi worried for Joey and wondered if there was something they could do to help. However, Yami assured Yugi that this was Joey's fight and he can win with their support. After Joey lost, guess you didn't get enough support. After Joey lost, Yugi screamed that it's a lie. He said that he won't lose Joey to the Shadow Realm. Later, at Joey's bedside, he begged for him not to die. Yugi blamed himself, saying that he should have dueled Merrick instead. Out in the hallway, Yugi cried more and considered stopping dueling, but Yami convinced him that they must not give up and let Merrick win. Yami got the idea using the Millennium Necklace to see what happens. He and Yugi then used it to look into the future, where they saw Yami and Joey preparing to duel. Yugi dueled Kaiba in the second semifinal as Yami Yugi. They managed to defeat Kaiba and afterwards found out Joey was okay, to Yugi's delight. Yugi and Yami gained Kaiba's Obelisk the Tormentor card through the Auntie rule. Yugi and Yami watched Joey duel Kaiba in a third-place playoff. They both agreed that Joey was a great duelist and would have defeated Merrick had their duel not had been turned into a shadow game. The two of them noticed the Millennium Puzzle acting strange and saw Taya's reflection in it. They left the duel to find Taya, who was possessed by the original Merrick, to confront Yami Merrick. At the top of the duel tower, they found Taya, Merrick, and Ishizu. Ishizu explained that Taya would be fine and that Merrick's good side still lives on within Taya's mind. Before facing Merrick, Kaiba gave Yugi the card Fiend Sanctuary, which Kaiba intended to use against Merrick himself. Yami Merrick and Yami Yugi's final duel was a shadow game, where the regular Yugi and Merrick were drawn from the bodies and floated next to them in spirit form. Yugi and Merrick were bound by their wrists and ankles in darkness, and parts of their bodies disappeared as their Yami selves lost life points. In the 4Kids version, they were gradually being swallowed into the Shadow Realm. If Yami Yugi lost, Yugi would vanish and the Pharaoh would cease to exist, as he required the physical body of a host to maintain himself. Yugi encouraged Yami throughout the duel. He even urged Yami to pay life points to keep Fiend Sanctuary active, knowing it would make part of his body disappear. Yugi insisted that they must find a way to win without causing the good Merrick to disappear. However, the good Merrick possessed Taya and told Yugi not to hesitate, as he's prepared to die. He no longer blamed the Yugis for his father's death. In the dub, Merrick said not to worry about protecting him. He wants to defeat his dark side at all costs. Yugi was certain that Yami Merrick was going to fuse with the Winged Dragon of Ra a second time in the duel, and reminded Yami Yugi that if he does that again, he will become a monster and have the weakness of a monster card. With that in mind, Yami Yugi managed to use Ragnarok, which would destroy Ra. As Yugi wondered if this would cause the good Merrick to disappear, Odeon appeared. Since Odeon had been keeping Yami Merrick away, his return allowed the regular Merrick to regain some control of his body and urged Yami to attack. The Yugis continued to use the effect of Ragnarok, which destroyed Ra and caused Merrick and Yami Merrick to switch places. With only 1 point left, only Yami Merrick's eye remained. Merrick then surrendered, causing Yami Merrick to disappear and Yugi to win the duel. As the host, Kaiba congratulated Yugi for winning. In the dub, he added that Yugi only won because Merrick surrendered. Merrick informed Yugi that with his dark side gone, the souls of Mai and Bakura should be released and gave him the Winged Dragon of Ra due to the Auntie rule. Merrick then showed Yugi the hieroglyphics carved on his back, explaining that the secret of the Pharaoh's power is written there, and whoever holds the 3 Egyptian god cards can unlock the secret. With his mission complete, Merrick handed the Millennium Rod and ring to Yugi. Kaiba announced that he was going to blow up the duel tower and gave everyone an hour to evacuate. Yugi and his friends returned to the battleship and found that Mai and Bakura were okay, but there was no sign of the Kaiba brothers on the blimp. With the battleship damaged from escaping Noah's fortress and no one able to find the Kaibas, everyone else boarded the Kaiba Corp helicopter. As they left, they saw Kaiba and Mokuba had escaped in their Blue Eyes White Dragon jet. Back in Domino City, Yugi and his friends said goodbye to the Ishtar family, Duke and Mai. Afterwards, back in Kame Game, Yugi and Yami Yugi assembled a deck and included the Red Eyes Black Dragon Joey gave them. At sunrise, the Yugis met Joey at the plaza for a final duel to conclude their Battle City adventure. Grand Championship. Yugi, Kaiba, and all of Yugi's friends prepare for Kaiba's ultimate tournament, the KC1 Grand Prix Championship. The winner of the tournament would face Yugi Muto in an attempt to claim his title as the World Duel Monster Champion. On the opening day, while Yugi and his friends are watching a duel between Rick and the KC Dualtech 760, a hacker traps all the duelists and spectators inside the makeshift electronic stadium. The CPU opponent level has been altered to its highest difficulty, and the only way for everyone to escape is to defeat the CPU in a duel. Rick had mostly dragon-type normal monsters and almost no magic or trap cards in his deck. Yugi transforms into Yami and takes over, using Heart of the Underdog, a card Yugi had given Rick, and combined it with the effects of Spirit Ryou to win and free everyone. Yugi didn't really duel much in this season. He cheered for Joey and Rebecca throughout the tournament. He dueled and defeated Vivian Wong in order for her to cure Solomon Muto's back. Yami faced Leon von Schroeder, who assumed the alias Leon Wilson in the finals. Leon acted differently during the title bout, and Yugi discovered that Leon only wanted to duel and defeat him to earn the respect of his family that Siegfried couldn't earn in his youth. Leon played an illegal card, Golden Castle of Stromberg, that forced Yugi to discard half the cards in his deck with every passing turn that Leon took, and also infected a virus into the Kaiba Corp computer system. Yami figures out a weakness in the card. He couldn't discard half of the cards in his deck, having only one card left. He was able to destroy it and nullify the virus. With Golden Castle of Stromberg defeated, Yugi continued the duel and played several magic and trap cards before striking the final blow using Dark Magician, Necromancy, and Diffusion Wave Motion to win. Pharaoh's Memories. Before heading to Egypt to finally unlock the Pharaoh's memories, Yugi wanted to learn as much as he could. He asked his grandpa to tell him about his adventure where he recovered the Millennium Puzzle from the tomb of the nameless pharaoh. He was sad to hear that Grandpa didn't know the way back to the tomb, but Grandpa advised him to stay away from there. Obsessed with the Egyptian god cards, Grandpa pleaded with Yugi to leave them with him rather than return them. Yugi reminded him how the pharaoh was going to need them, and Grandpa apologized. Before saying goodnight, Grandpa said that his own adventure was over and assured Yugi that he was the only one with the power to help the pharaoh recover everything he's lost. Holding the legacy of the pharaoh is no small task, he said, and advised Yugi to take every challenge like he faces a game. As Yugi slept, he dreamed he was talking with Yami, reflecting on how meeting each other had changed their lives. Yugi was woken up as he heard Rex and Weevil breaking in to steal the Egyptian god cards. These two are annoying as hell. They took a bag, not knowing it contained the Millennium items, and Yugi ran after them. By the time Yugi caught up, they had been knocked unconscious by Yami Bakura, who had taken back the Millennium Ring. Bakura returned the items and god cards to Yugi, but insisted on keeping the ring for himself. He tried to assure Yugi that he had the same goal, to bring the 7 Millennium items to the Millennium Stone. Taking control of Yugi's body, Yami ordered Bakura to stop poisoning Yugi's mind. Before parting, Bakura said that in order to solve the riddle of Pharaoh's memory, they will play the ultimate shadow game. At the airport, as Yugi prepared to board his flight, he unexpectedly met Joey, Taya, and Tristan. He told them that they didn't have to come, but they insisted that they wouldn't miss this for the world. At the airport in Egypt, Yugi and his friends were greeted by Ishizu, Marek, and Odeon Ishtar, who brought them to an underground cavern in the desert where the stone tablets from the museum had been relocated. As Yami held the Egyptian god cards up to the tablet, his spirit was sucked out of Yugi's body and into the memory world. The portion of Yami Bakura's soul that had secretly been sealed in the Millennium Puzzle was also sucked into the memory world, taking the rest of Yami Bakura's spirit from Bakura with it. Yugi reported that Yami was no longer present in his heart or the puzzle. Shadi appeared and confirmed that the pharaoh had left Yugi. He informed them that the pharaoh had gone to a world in his memories, which was created 3,000 years ago from the pharaoh's experiences. Fearing Yami is in the same danger that sealed him in the Millennium Puzzle the first time around, Yugi, Joey, Taya, and Tristan pleaded with Shadi to let them go to the memory world to help Yami. Shadi explained that they must go through a doorway in the Millennium Puzzle to get there. Again, Yugi insisted on going alone, but his friends wouldn't have it. Using the Millennium Key, Shadi brought the 4 of them inside the puzzle, where they began searching the labyrinth for the right door. Yugi and company searched the inside of the puzzle for a long time, but to no avail. Behind one of the doors, they found Yami Bakura, who turned into a monster and attacked them. After, an escaped Shadi informed them that that was the pharaoh's enemy in his true form. The maze reflected the pharaoh's heart. Yugi eventually started to feel it tremble as Yami was in danger. In the dub, the temperature changed as the Pharaoh's emotions changed. Yugi realized that rather than calling for the Pharaoh, they needed to wait for the Pharaoh to call to them, so he got everyone to sit together and concentrate. This caused the labyrinth to open a door to the memory world. Yugi, Joey, Taya, and Tristan entered the ancient Egyptian memory world where Yugi no longer had the Millennium Puzzle. Despite looking out of place, no one took any notice of them. They quickly learned that the other people couldn't see them and that trying to touch solid matter resulted in their phasing through it. Unbeknownst to them, they had entered an RPG played by Yami Bakura and Yami Yugi, where they acted as non-playable characters. The group found Bobasa, who like them couldn't be seen by most other people, but unlike them, was able to touch objects. Chasing Bobasa led them to find Priest Seto saving Kisara. Recognizing him as the guy who looked like Kaiba from the tablet, they knew he worked for the Pharaoh and followed him to the palace. Unlike other objects, they found that they couldn't phase through the palace gates. Bobasa reappeared and offered to help them. The five of them fell asleep outside the palace until the gates finally opened as the Pharaoh chased thief Bakura on horseback, accompanied by the monster Kai Diabound and Slifer the Sky Dragon respectively. Yugi, Joey, Taya, and Tristan ran after them and finally caught up with the Pharaoh after he fell off his horse following Slifer's defeat. They were happy to find that the Pharaoh could see them, as he asked Yugi in surprise if it was really him. By taking the Pharaoh's hand, Yugi was able to give him some of his strength, enabling him to summon the Winged Dragon of Ra to battle Bakura's Diabound. Ra initially defeated Diabound, but Yami Bakura, playing the RPG, used one of his Hourglass tokens to turn back time to a few minutes previous, this time following Slifer's defeat. Diabound's attack smashed the ground below the Pharaoh, causing him to fall into a chasm before Yugi and his friends could get to him. Yugi's friends briefly encountered thief Bakura before being called by Bobasa to hide. Taya worried that the Pharaoh may have lost his soul since he just lost the Shadow game, but Yugi reminded everyone that the world is built on the Pharaoh's memories, and since it still existed, he had to be okay. The next day, Yugi, Joey, Taya, Tristan, and Bobasa searched for the Pharaoh along the River Nile. There they found Mana, who was able to see them and mistook Yugi for the Pharaoh. When they started talking about looking for the Pharaoh after Bobasa had found his cape, Mana realized that Yugi isn't the Pharaoh. She quickly learned that they were his friends and joined their search party. The group were about to be attacked by thief Bakura's men shortly afterwards, but Mana used her magic to raise the river and sweep the attackers away. As they continued their search, Mana explained how only half her spells work, but Yugi told her how she resembled the card Dark Magician Girl, and that if she kept practicing, he's sure Mana could become as strong as the Dark Magician Girl. Eventually, the party found the Pharaoh on the beach. Yugi and his friends learned that thief Bakura had taken the Millennium Puzzle from the Pharaoh and was after the other items too. The Pharaoh told them that he had only regained a fragment of his childhood memory and no one would tell him his real name. The Pharaoh eventually left on horseback with Mana and asked that Yugi and the others return to their world and not get involved. Tristan, who had secretly been possessed by Yami Bakura, suggested that the Pharaoh deliberately made himself lose his memory in order to forget information only he knew and that someone would need to bring back the evil that he had locked away. Yugi and the others agreed that this must be his name, which had been erased from history. Yugi figured the Pharaoh must have used it as a password to lock Zork Necrophades away. Since the Pharaoh was going to relive his battle with this creature, Yugi realized that without knowing his name, the Pharaoh will lose this time. Determined to find out the Pharaoh's name before the battle, they decided to go to the palace to see if there was some record of it. This time at the palace, thinking to himself, Yugi asked the Pharaoh to let them in it, and found that he could pass through the palace gates. Inside the courtyard, he suggested that they split up to search and meet back in an hour. As they searched, Yami Bakura used another Hourglass token to temporarily freeze time. The five of them met up again, finding Bobasa had eaten all the food in the storage room. Despite this, he was still hungry and couldn't move without eating again. Tristan, who was still possessed, argued that Bobasa was no help and that they should leave him. However, Yugi pointed out that he had helped them find the Pharaoh. The others agreed and helped Bobasa find something to eat. After finding some grapes, they pulled him outside and let him eat them. The grapes finally filled Bobasa, who said this allowed him to grant their wish. His body inflated, allowing him to float in midair. He invited them to get on his back so he could take them to the Pharaoh's name. He flew them to the Pharaoh's tomb at the Valley of the Kings. The inside of the tomb was filled with traps. Remembering Grandpa's story about his visit to the tomb, Yugi knew traps operated and was able to guide his friends safely through. They reached the room where Grandpa found the Millennium Puzzle, but were unable to find any clues there. So they began searching for another room. Joey accidentally leaned on a hidden switch, unlocking a passageway. Possessed, Tristan ran ahead of everyone else but found the room was empty. To everyone's surprise, Tristan read the hieroglyphics on the floor, claiming they said that whoever solved the Millennium Puzzle must return the wish that they were granted in order to pass. Yugi claimed that what he wished for could never be returned, but after some coaxing, admitted that he wished for friends. Taya and Tristan were touched, having never heard this before. Tristan pushed Yugi onto the one-eye pattern on the floor and pushed Joey and Taya onto each other, where he joined them. The floor split apart from the two eyes, and a connecting beam gave way, leaving the two eyes balancing on a stone needle below the middle of the beam. In the dub, a pit of shadows is added below the platform. In Japanese, it's just a long fall. The beam turned, positioning Yugi's eye at the door to another room. Yugi was reluctant to go through as it would have meant losing his friends. After calling Yugi weak, Tristan leaped from the platform to the doorway, causing the platform to go off balance. Joey and Taya jumped off the platform and grabbed onto the ledge. Yugi ran after them and jumped, catching onto Joey. The three of them climbed up and entered the room. Inside the room, they found the name written on a wall. Unable to read it, they just memorized the hieroglyphics. As they looked around for Tristan, they spotted an exit and followed it. Yugi, Joey, and Taya were taken to a chamber with two sides connected to a bridge. Standing at the other side was Tristan, who revealed he was possessed by Yami Bakura and took on his appearance. At the same time, the room shook as Zork was about to be resurrected elsewhere. Yami Bakura laughed that they weren't going to leave with the Pharaoh's name, then formed a duel disc on his arm and challenged Yugi to a duel. Bakura explained that their decks will be created from images of their mind and the order of the cards won't be revealed until they draw. Duel discs and decks then appeared on their arms. Bakura told Yugi that this would be a shadow game, so losing would mean losing his soul. In the dub, Bakura instead said that it had been a while since they dueled, but this time Yugi doesn't have Yami Yugi to bail him out. As they dueled, Yugi realized that the deck created from images of his mind was much different than his real deck. Yugi intended to level up Silent Swordsman level 0 under the protection of Marshmallow and Marshmallow glasses. However, Bakura forced Marshmallow into attack mode, leaving Yugi the burden of defending it too. Whenever Bakura took the upper hand, he would often taunt Yugi about not being able to win without Yami Yugi. Bakura used cursed twin dolls to remove his own graveyard, filling his field with ghosts, and counterbalance to cause players to send cards from their decks to the graveyard equal to the number of cards on the field, including the ghosts each turn. Since Bakura no longer had a graveyard, he was unaffected. Yugi used Arya from Ryou to use Spirit Sword of Sealing to temporarily remove Silent Swordsman from the game. Bakura's strategy left Yugi with one card in his deck, Gardner the Dragon of Destruction, which he drew and summoned. Using its effect, Gardner destroyed and removed from play all other monsters on the field and then destroyed itself. This deactivated the effect of Spirit Sword of Sealing and returned Silent Swordsman. Yugi used Silent Swordsman with 5500 attack to attack and defeat Bakura. Bakura said that he couldn't believe he lost to a container. Before relinquishing control of Tristan's body, he laughed that Zork had still been freed, and they couldn't win if the Pharaoh dies. After explaining to Tristan what just happened, the chamber started to collapse. The quartet exited through a tunnel, leading them to the side of a cliff. After sliding down the cliff, Yugi and his friends were attacked by hooded riders. Like how Yugi and Yami Bakura were able to form duel discs, Yugi realized that if they concentrated hard enough, their thoughts could become real. With no time to fight the riders, they imagined that they could fly and took off to find the Pharaoh. As Zork was about to throw a fireball at the Pharaoh, Yugi and his friends arrived. Zork instead threw the fireball at them, saying that they should have stayed in their own world. The group dodged the attack but saw some of Bakura's soldiers approaching. Preparing to fight, Yugi conjured a duel disc and the deck that he and Atem built. He summoned the Dark Magician, who the Pharaoh now recognized as Mahad. Joey, Taya, Tristan, and Mana, who was at the palace, summoned more monsters to battle the soldiers. With the monster spirits battling Zork and the soldiers, Yugi and his friends gathered around the Pharaoh. They told him that they had seen his name and remembered what it looked like, but were unable to read it. However, after seeing the Pharaoh's cartouche, Taya suggested that they concentrate on making the hieroglyphics appear on it. They held their hands around the cartouche and tried this. Zork tried to stop them by throwing another fireball in their direction, but Seto Kaiba appeared and used Ring of Defense to block the attack. Zork launched another attack, destroying the ring. Yugi and company managed to survive with the name engraved on the cartouche. The Pharaoh declared that his name was Atem. Knowing this, he was able to revive the Egyptian gods and combine them into the creator god of light, Horakti, who attacked and destroyed Zork. Yugi and Atem both found it weird having different names at first, having shared an identity since Yugi solved the puzzle. Yugi said he felt a bit lonely, but it was okay. Even if their names are different, he said that they will still be a team. After saying goodbye to Prince Seto, Atem reached the end of his memories and he could no longer exist in the memory world, so he joined Yugi, Joey, Taya, Tristan, and Kaiba to leave through an opening in the sky. Yugi and the others awoke in the cavern they had entered the world of the Pharaoh's memories from. Yugi found that Atem's still residing in his body and received the Millennium Eye from Kaiba, who said he'd be needing it. Before they can question Kaiba on how he got it, they were interrupted by the appearance of Bakura, who was no longer possessed by Yami Bakura. As they left, the Yugis took the Millennium Ring from Bakura and found the Millennium Scales and Key left behind by Shadi. Ceremonial Battle. The Ishtars guided Yugi and his friends to the Shrine of the Millennium Stone, the Pharaoh's final resting place. They went onto the boat where Yugi met up with Duke, Grandpa, and Mokuba. On the boat, Merrick told Yugi that Atem would have to lose in a ceremonial battle in order to move on. Joey and Kaiba both offered to duel Atem, but Yugi declined their offers in favor of dueling Atem himself. He believed that this was something both he and Atem needed. Angrily, Kaiba showed Yugi a briefcase of cards and said that if he's dueling, he might as well use a real deck, but Yugi declined again, wanting to use his and Atem's cards. The night before they arrived at the shrine, Yugi worked on his deck. Taya came into Yugi's room and admitted that she didn't want Atem to go and asked how Atem felt about it. However, Atem had been hiding within his soul room to give Yugi privacy while he made his deck. As he constructed the deck, Yugi reflected on how solving the Millennium Puzzle changed his life. Once he finished, he gave Atem privacy to construct his deck. The next day, everyone arrived at the shrine. This was the best time for the duel as Zork had just been defeated. Ishizu assured them and said that the Pharaoh will be stuck in this time if they don't take this chance. Yugi placed the Millennium items in the Millennium Stone. This caused the Eye of Wahat, or Eye of Horus, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, to scan him for the Pharaoh's soul and split them into two bodies. Yugi and Atem walked to opposite sides of the cavern and prepared to duel. Atem chose not to hold back and quickly summoned the three Egyptian gods. Using Valkyrion the Magna Warrior, in combination with Magnet Force and predicting Atem's moves, Yugi was able to redirect the blasts from Slifer the Sky Dragon back at the gods, lowering their attack and eventually destroying them. Yugi and Atem continued to battle using cards that both of them had used before together. When Atem summoned Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl, Yugi fought them using cards like he used against Yami Bakura and played Gold Sarcophagus, predicting Atem would use Monster Reborn. Once the magicians were defeated, Atem attempted to revive Slifer the Sky Dragon using Monster Reborn, but Yugi revealed that he had selected that card with Gold Sarcophagus and negated its effects. Yugi reluctantly attacked Atem directly with Silent Magician, winning the duel. With the duel over, Yugi wept. He called himself weak and said that he had always followed Atem, wanting to be as strong as him. However, Atem said that Yugi has the strength of tenderness, which Yugi has also taught him. Yugi called Atem the other me, but Atem said that he is no longer another Yugi, and Yugi Muto is now himself and nobody else. In the dub, as Yugi wept, he said that he was so focused on the duel that he forgot what winning meant. However, Atem said that Yugi has opened the door for him, so he can finally be at rest where he belongs and that they have finally fulfilled their destiny. Yugi said that he was going to miss Atem, but Atem said that they will never be truly apart as the gift of kindness Yugi has given him and the courage he has given Yugi will bind them forever. The Eye of Wahat then began to glow and upon hearing Atem say his name, opened the door to the spirit world. Yugi and his friends tried to convince Atem to stay. After Joey convinced Taya that the Pharaoh had to go, Yugi said that he will never forget Atem. In the dub, Yugi said that it's like they always say, "It's your move." Once the door shut, the chamber began to shake. Yugi and the others all ran outside while the shrine collapsed, bearing the Millennium items with it. He thought that this isn't the tale of the Pharaoh. Everyone has their own story, and although one has just ended, his own is just beginning. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Jaden Yugi bumps into Yugi on the way to the Duel Academy signups. Yugi gives Jaden the card Winged Kuribo. In the Japanese version, he says the card is lucky. In the English dub, he says that he feels the card belongs with Jaden. Yugi's deck goes on display at Duel Academy. Later on, it's stolen by Dimitri, who duels Jaden with it. During the duel, Dimitri began to mimic Yugi, and a shaded figure of Yugi appeared behind him. Afterward, the deck is returned. In his duel with Gravekeeper's chief, Jaden mentioned that Yugi had won many shadow duels. While Lyman Batter was giving a history lesson, he mentions Yugi and Kaiba as the best duelists of their generation and shows drawings of them to the class. One of the girls in the class say they're one of the best looking, and another girl calls them dreamboats. During Jaden's duel with the Dark Magician Girl, Bastion Misawa and Zane Truesdale state that Yugi's the only duelist that possesses the Dark Magician Girl card, making them confused about who Jaden's dueling against. When Jaden visits the Kami Game Shop during the school trip, Solomon Muto states Yugi went on another journey and he doesn't know when he'll come back. While Jaden is dueling T-Bone, Jaden gives T-Bone some words of wisdom, which Solomon Muto believes to be exactly what Yugi would have said. While Bob Banter is caught spying on Alexis Rhodes, he distracts Jaden, Cyrus, and Hasselberry by saying, "Hey, look, it's Yugi!" So he makes his escape. When Jaden duels France, who stole a copy of the Winged Dragon of Ra, Pegasus compares Jaden to Yugi. During one of Aster Phoenix's flashbacks, Pegasus mentions Yugi being number 1 in his top 5 duelists, with Kaiba as number 2, Joey number 3, Aster number 4, and Jesse Anderson as number 5. During Jaden's last year, the person who had gained the most graduation points at the exam would get a copy of Yugi's deck, excluding the God cards. Chaz Princeton, Alexis Rhodes, and Cyrus Truesdale qualified, but turned down the prize in favor of their own decks. During the graduation party, Jaden is led by Winged Kuribo to the room containing Yugi's deck. Yugi appears and sends Jaden back in time to duel his younger self. Sometime before the Waking of the Dragons arc, Yugi won Battle City V2 at some point and had a dream where Kuribo told him he would meet someone and have to duel him. Shortly after this, Yugi bumped into Jaden Yuki, who had been sent back in time by Yugi's future self. Jaden showed Yugi a Winged Kuribo card, which he said Yugi had given to him, and it helped him come here. Yugi saw that Jaden's Winged Kuribo looked like his own Kuribo, but had no knowledge of ever meeting Jaden or giving him a card. He told Jaden about his dream and asked if Jaden was there to duel him. The two proceeded to Domino City Plaza, where they saw that time had frozen and nobody else was around, and began to duel. Yugi was impressed by Jaden's elemental hero cards. After Jaden got the upper hand, Yugi switched to Yami Yugi, who summoned Slifer the Sky Dragon, stating that the only worthy opponent for Jaden is a god. Jaden then remembered the important thing that he had lost: how to have fun in a duel regardless of its importance. No outcome to the duel is shown, and Jaden returned to his own time. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Though he didn't appear in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, Yugi may have been considered the greatest duelist of all time by this point. In the unaltered events of Bonds Beyond Time, an old article depicted Yugi to have won the tournament held by Pegasus at Domino Plaza, as shown in the photo of him holding a trophy while shaking hands with Pegasus with his grandpa in the back. Bonds Beyond Time. Set before the events of the Waking of the Dragons arc and his duel with Jaden, Yugi attended a Duel Monsters tournament at Domino Plaza where Pegasus was handing out cards to young children. Paradox time traveled to this event in order to kill Pegasus. He summoned Cyber End Dragon and used it to attack the plaza, burying Pegasus and Grandpa under rubble. Yugi managed to survive an attack and began to search for survivors. He then found his grandfather's bandana and wept over his death. However, the Crimson Dragon appeared and swallowed Yugi. Yugi was taken back in time to half an hour previous, where he was joined by Yusei Fudo and Jaden Yuki, who were also time traveling. Jaden and Yusei told Yugi what they knew about Paradox, and Yugi agreed to help them try and stop him. Before Paradox was able to destroy the plaza, Jaden got Yubel to scare them away, resulting in their running to safety. Yugi, Jaden, and Yusei then confronted Paradox, who explained that he was from a future destroyed by duel monsters and is now trying to prevent its creation. Yugi, Jaden, and Yusei dueled Paradox with a time limit of 20 minutes, by which time Pegasus would arrive. Yugi switched to Yami Yugi, who together with Jaden and Yusei won the duel. With everything returned to normal, Yugi said goodbye to Jaden and Yusei before they returned to their own times and hoped to meet them again. It's likely that most of Yugi's memories of the film's events were erased due to the altered timeline that he was taken from being undone upon Paradox's defeat. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Thank you for watching. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is great.